Hey, I'm CJ Shaver, and this is The Winning Fish. We're on a lake in central Ohio. It gets quite a bit of fishing pressure on it. Sets up, there's 3 pools. There's a south pool, a middle pool, and a north pool. The south pool is deeper, predominantly smallmouth. The middle pool is usually a little muddier, a little more stained water. And the north pool has a river that feeds into it. The middle and the north pool are predominantly largemouth. So it's early spring. We just came off of a really cold week last week. This week it's been warm. The water's warming up. It's about 50, 52 degrees. We're going to start off the day running north. We're going to look for some largemouth in some stained water, and hopefully find that water is going to be a little bit warmer. And we're just going to go try to flip up some largemouth. So we pulled up to our first spot. We're right here on a major point. Looks like there's a roadbed that comes through it. You can see the creek channel swings in close to it. There's a lot of deep water there, and it looks like this bank's a little flatter than what the map is showing. So we're going to start here. It looks like the trees and a lot of the cover has some muddy water to it. So we're just going to start flipping a little jig around there. The water's still cold, so you don't want to give them a big jig or a big beaver or big flipping bait. We're just going to start small and kind of see if the fish are active, what they're doing. We might throw in a little square bill, maybe a little spinner bait in there if they're actively chasing and actively feeding. So we're going to start right here, and hopefully we'll flip us up a couple.
So where's your magic tree?
It's this one.
This is it?
Yeah. That's a big freaking smallmouth. Holy shit. It's a big freaking smallmouth. I flipped into this tree and got bit. I set the hook, and this smallmouth was in like 3 feet of water on this tree. Look at that thing. It's like it ate a softball. Well, I'm still shaking a little bit from that big smallmouth. We're drifting around. I'm gonna pull back in there and start flipping that tree again. It could have a whole school of smallmouth in it. So we're gonna find out. We're just gonna keep flipping this stuff where the creek channel comes in. There's deep water that goes up right against the bank on these flat areas where these trees are. We pulled in. The main lake was at like 54 degrees. And I noticed when we pulled up and got into the shallow water, it jumped up to 61, 62 degrees. So, like I said, those fish are just up there just getting warm. You can see with that big smallmouth that had a big belly full of eggs. They're just trying to get warm, maybe feed a little bit. But like I said, the warmth is the key, and finding that warm water definitely just paid off. I'm kind of scared that there might be another one in there. That was kind of, I mean, that was terrifying. I don't know if I much care for flipping smallies. So this water looks pretty muddy, but it seems like the mud's just on the surface. Maybe like the top 6 inches of water is mud. When I'm hitting my trolling motor and flipping the jig into the mud, you can see it kind of disperse. So the water, it looks muddy, but I think it's a little bit cleaner than what we think. I'm just skipping over this pocket. It's super, super shallow in there. There's just a lot of brushy looking stuff. Really, because I'm trying to cover water right now and see if we can duplicate where we caught that fish at, that first fish at. It was on more of a hard tree instead of this brushy stuff. Now, if we're flipping through and we get bit on the brushy stuff, this is an area to come back into and really spend time and flip all that brush. But right now, we're just kind of going to cover water and focus on the hard targets, the actual logs and the base of the trees. With the water being muddy and stained, I might be missing trees that I can't see just under the surface that are shallow. So the square bill is going to help me find those too. If I bump into one, if I run it through it and catch a fish, or if I bump into one, I'll know to pick up the jig and flip in there. I think I need to find an area like where we caught that smallie, where it was deep but it was more flat, where those trees were more on a flat, so that I still think the fish, that smallmouth and the fish are going to be close to that deep water, but on a flat where it's going to be a lot warmer. This bank, the creek channel swings in, but it swings in directly against the bank, so there isn't really a spot for a fish to pull up on and find some of that warmer water. So I'm looking at my electronics. There's a little island behind us where the creek channel swings in, but the island itself is shallow, and it looks like there's some laydowns on it. So we're gonna scoot on over there and start flipping that. So one thing a lot of anglers might miss when you're fishing kind of muddy water, it's high, is if you look at here, you can visually see these bigger trees coming into the water. But if you pay close attention, there's a root ball right there. You can't see the trunk of the tree, but there is, a big tree that comes into the water there that's worth fishing down, even though you can't see it. So it's critical when you're fishing shallow, muddy water to really pay attention at what's against the bank. Right here, there's 1, 2, 3, there's 4 root balls sticking up that all have trees on them, but you can't even see the trees because the water's too muddy. So we kind of fished around this big creek for a good little while, covered a lot of water in it, didn't get any other big bites. So on our way out of the creek, we're going to stop at that tree where I caught that smallmouth, and then we're going to go look for some new water to fish. All right, guys, so we've been fishing for 3 hours since we caught that big smallmouth. This is not the glamorous side of bass fishing, but you just got to keep pecking away and searching for new water. You got to run the different theories that you've got going. We're in a new creek now, moving further north. Water temp's still in that 60-degree range. In this creek, I'm planning on, I'm going to fish all the way to the back of it. I haven't fished the backs of any of these creeks so far. So maybe we had this really warm week and maybe it's just pushing fish towards the backs of these creeks. We're gonna find out. Stay tuned. Here's a fish. It's just a little guy, but he's on the square bill. He was just on a bare bank. Might be a little clue though. Look at how white this fish is. Typically, largemouth get light in color like this when they're in deep water or muddy water, or when they're just moving up from that deep water. I'd say this fish just moved up probably within the last day or so. I think I got it. Yeah, there it is. Oh, the first thing we noticed when we pulled into this creek was there's a lot of shad flicking around. Caught that fish. When I hooked into it, a shad flicked. There's shad, I mean, all over here. And it's not that, you know, they aren't deep shad. I mean, we're sitting in like 6 foot of water. So we're gonna try out the old bull shad. Water's a little muddier than I like for fishing swim baits, but because I think the fish are shallow, this bait puts off, it moves a lot of water. It's got some knocking in it. We have nothing else to lose. So we're going to try something a little bit different. We pulled up to the bridge that separates the middle pool from the upper pool. And we're just going to throw a crankbait along it. We're on the north side. We're on the south side of the bridge where the north sun's going to be hitting it best. So the water should be warmer. We're up around the riprap. Hopefully the fish will be up there getting warmed up, maybe rooting around for some crawfish. We'll see. That's a fish. That's a nice one. Flip them on in there. Nice little, well, crooked little largemouth. He's got a hump back, a bum tail, and a bad eye. This fish was real shallow on those rocks, and it was a little section where the rocks kind of made a point. Maybe only a foot out off the bank, but that's where that fish was on it. Sometimes you catch a fish that has a bad eye. Sometimes you catch a fish that has a humpback. That one had a bad eye, a humpback, and a bum tail.
That had about half the boat.
And it was healthy though. Wasn't like it was sick. What the hell is that? He come off. That road bed up there might have one. So when we were fishing this shallow, and as the boat came off of that, right where that concrete comes into the water, we were sitting in 6 or 7 foot of water, and it looked like, I thought it looked like bass on my depth finder. We're sitting just kind of stacked there right on the edge of that concrete. So we just got a little bit deeper diving crankbait. We're trying to get down there. That's a smallie, I think. Yeah. There. Oh, he's not coming off. It's a nice little smallie. Same thing, he was on that riprap, probably up there getting warm. Feeding, he absolutely hammered that KVD 1.5. Just nice, healthy fish. Basically, a bridge cuts and separates a lake in half. There's always the bridge itself where boats can go under that acts as almost a funnel. So if a fish wants to move from the middle pool to the upper pool, it has to go along this riprap and under the bridge. So it's really, it's like a highway or a road for fish. So that's why bridges attract fish. My goal is I'm going to come back through. I fished that one stretch with a square bill. Really just covering that 1 to 3 foot of water on the rocks. So I'm going to circle back around, go back through it with a deeper diving crankbait and see maybe there's fish holding out a little bit deeper, or maybe my shallow diver just didn't reach some of the fish. There he is. What is that? Ew! It looks like a yellow turd. What? There he is. I don't know what this. No, he came off. I bet it was a flathead. No? There's some slime on it. There he is. And there's number 5, I think. That's 12, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Long one. Little guy, but that's our limit. Probably sitting at 11 pounds right now. He came through and made a pass with that deeper diving crankbait, and I just wasn't feeling it. I just got another bite. I think these fish they're on these rocks, but I think they're really shallow. Little guy. Now we've got a super long riprap bank here. We fished about halfway down, but there seemed to be a 75-yard section that's really held these fish, and that's the section that's closest to the bridge where you can go under the road. So I think that's a great indicator of what these fish are doing. I think they're moving. They're probably pulling up from the creek channel onto the rocks, and then they're moving towards the bridge to go under it. All right, guys, so it's the end of the day. I think we ended up with about 11 pounds. That one big smallmouth ended up weighing 5 pounds, 13 ounces. I caught that one right at the beginning of the day, just flipping a little homemade jig. We were just fishing that kind of that shallow water that's right close to deep water at the mouth of the first creek we're in. So throughout the day, did a lot of flipping. Didn't get as many bites as I was hoping as far as flipping goes, but I feel like, and I'm confident that if you go through and just cover a lot of water flipping, you're going to catch bigger fish doing that. Probably the females that are just moving up, that are just trying to get warm. Now, towards the end of the day, we ended up fishing some bridge riprap there in the middle and upper pool. For that, we were just fishing KVD 1.5, kind of in a chartreuse crawl pattern. Those fish on the bridge, on the riprap of the bridge, were super shallow. So we just went through and cranked it. We ended up making, I think, 3 or 4 passes. Through each pass, we picked up 1 or 2 fish. So that's kind of the day in review. If I could do something differently, I probably would have focused more on riprap just to get my numbers of fish, and I would have liked to catch a couple other good ones flipping. If tomorrow was a tournament day, I would definitely go first thing, go check on the area where I caught that big one. Maybe there's a morning bite in there, maybe some fish moved in overnight. So I'd go check that, and if that didn't pan out, anything special, I would go fish the riprap, at least get my limit, and then go back and keep flipping trees towards the mouth of creeks that are on flatter areas. I really, really believe that that's where you're going to catch your bigger fish. You might not get 5 of them a day, but that's why it's important to fish the riprap, get a quick limit, and then go just keep calling up with bigger fish by flipping. I'm CJ Shaver, and this was the winning fish.